Hey, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, Massachusetts, America's hometown. Happy Friday to you. Thank you so much for showing up today. Great to have you. I got to admit, I had a little difficulty putting together today's show because there were just so many stories to talk about. And then once I kind of gathered all the stories I wanted to talk about, then it was like, oh my God, they're all interrelated in one way or another. How am I going to organize today's show? So it was kind of a challenge to kind of, because I think the sequencing is so very important. And I put a lot of time in that before I actually hit the go live button. And I was like, it was like, whoa, just very overwhelming to kind of figure it out. So hopefully we have a good show for you today. Plus, gonna take your calls as we did yesterday and the day before, kind of a new feature here at the John F. Gately Show, taking your live listener calls. And we'll try to actually put up the phone number a little bit earlier this time. Maybe if one of you remind me, that would be good. And so that is on the agenda. We have an amazing show. Like there's so much to talk about. First, of course, as I almost always, a quick update on the weather, which is incredibly important to me. This stuff that we see out the window will probably burn off, and we are looking at almost a full week of beautiful summer weather. Might be a little shower on Tuesday, but otherwise, I think we're moving into a pretty much rain-free pattern for at least several days, and doesn't look like any significant weather coming our way until maybe next Thursday or something like that. Maybe something Tuesday, brief, but otherwise we're looking pretty good for the weekend. Let's just focus on the weekend. Looking pretty good for the weekend. I'm going to be on the road today a little bit. So I'm happy about that. As I have been, as you've been watching these videos, we went up to Braintree and did 2 different videos in front of 2 different alleged drug dealer houses. That was pretty exciting. And, oh, by the way, if you didn't watch it yesterday, I did post it out there. Wherever you happen to get your Tucker Carlson, whether it's on X or YouTube or whatever platform, Tucker Carlson sat down and did hour and a half, 2-hour interview with Steve Robinson from the Main Wire. And you can also go to the Tucker Carlson Network and watch the Steve Robinson documentary that was done in partnership with the Main Wire, Steve Robinson, and the Tucker Carlson Network. So all of that, you can find it out there, but strongly recommending it. I did complete the Steve Robinson, Tucker Carlson interview or chat, that they do, podcast, whatever they want to call it, yesterday. And exceptional, 2 thumbs up, and I'm recommending that for your listening pleasure. So great to have you here today on this beautiful Sunday. Friday, I should say. Somebody is already reposting the stream. Well, that's so nice. I never ask anybody to do that, but thank you. Thank you, Angry Survivor. Thank you very much for that. It's very nice of you. I do feel we had a nice breeze coming through the window overnight. Sometimes you get that nice summer breeze that makes it comfortable. We haven't had the AC on. Just skipped the AC yesterday, but now it feels just a little bit muggy coming in the window. What happened in California yesterday when the feds raided a marijuana farm, which is obviously directly related to a lot of the news that we've been bringing you here on this account? Feds are executing a search warrant at this marijuana farm, according to the local U.S. attorney out there, Bill Essayli. I'm not sorry, Bill. I'm sure I mispronounced your name. Having already arrested multiple individuals for impeding this operation and will continue to make arrests. Don't interfere. You will be arrested and charged with a federal offense. And these photos are from KTLA in Channel 5 in Los Angeles. And wow, I mean, that looks like to be tear gas. And this is like a whole Edel Haji wannabes. Look at there's Ashley Spring. No, that's not Ashley Spring. But there's the Ashley Spring wannabe. You never knew what that Ashley Spring was going to launch, thousands of Ashley Springs across the country, impeding federal law enforcement. Amazing. Now, with that, if you have not seen this video, this is remarkable, but apparently someone decided at this marijuana farm to start firing randomly and in the general direction of federal law enforcement.
Take a look at this video right here. It appears a protester fired some kind of gun at federal agents. This happened this afternoon. It was a really chaotic scene at the time. A lot of smoke was being launched at the protesters. And again, it appears a protester fired back with that weapon.
Oh, a lot of smoke has been fired at the protest. So is she trying to say that that is somehow justified? And he fired back. He looks completely in control and responsible with the discharge of that weapon.
It looks like he fired at least a couple of times. We have not heard about any agents being hurt.
Oh, thank God. That's good, I suppose. But my God, what is going on in Gavin Newsom's? Of course, Massachusetts is kind of like a little Gavin Newsom or Gavin. It's a rivalry as to which state is actually worse. Then Gavin Newsom himself puts this tweet out here. Kids are running from tear gas, crying on phones because their mother was just taken from the fields. Trump calls me new scum, but he's the real scum. But, as John Carney points out here, did Newsom even ask himself, why are children on this marijuana farm on a Thursday morning? Like, why are the kids here? That's a really good question. If you haven't watched it, let's take a quick look from KTL A5. There are children here on this marijuana grow farm out in Ventura County. This kid's got tear gas in his eyes, but it's also the fact he looks maybe like 14, 15.
They took your mom?
He's crying, poor kid. All right, and then it loops back again. So why are kids at a marijuana farm, which apparently is legal out in California, because there are I didn't know they cultivated it outside in California, but I guess, the whole state's basically a greenhouse. Most fertile land almost in the world, right? San Joaquin Valley. It's gorgeous, by the way. If you've never had an opportunity to drive through it, it's just like mind-boggling how fertile the whole area is. It's just fantastic. But Ventura County marijuana farm raided by ICE because they were looking for illegal immigrants. And apparently they found some working in the fields. Not a big surprise. So I got to admit, and I talked to you about this on Wednesday, I think, when this whole situation with the marijuana grows kind of came to my attention, which would have been in the spring or the early winter of 2024. And I drove up to Maine to see if Steve Robinson was actually telling the truth. And he was. And I went to about 8 or 9 grow houses up there in Maine. And then I came back and I've got other things to do. And there's a lot of different stories. And the story is so big that I just had like a little tidbit here and a little bit tidbit here, a breadcrumb there. And I didn't really connect the dots in any way. And I thought I needed to write a story which is more comprehensive, like this is the whole thing. And that was a mistake. That was a journalistic mistake, which actually I probably learned a long time ago. I was the editor of my college newspaper back in the day. And I remembered I learned this lesson back then. Just write what you have rather than try to put the whole story together, because every little drop of truth helps you get another lead. So that's what I should have done. Even though I couldn't really connect the dots, I should have just told you what I knew at the time. And then sometimes when you do that, the story develops for you, and then you can subsequently write more of a comprehensive story. So going back to that, back in September, there was a house raided, and to the best of my knowledge, other than the raid that was conducted in October 24, which was secret and not publicized by the FBI on these homes in eastern Massachusetts, most notably Braintree. Aside from that, the most recently public and publicized raid of a marijuana grow house in Massachusetts occurred in September of 2024 in the small little beautiful little town of Hamden. And so shortly after that raid, I went out there to Hamden and I took this picture. And that's obviously the red that I've added there, because in the front yard and over to the left, this is very shortly after the raid, which occurred in September of 2024, there were giant piles of dirt, like you would see if you like bought a potted plant and then it died, and then you emptied the potted. This is where the cops left all the soil from. They pulled the plants out of the pots and they left the soil behind. They took the plants. So they just left it there. So I took this picture when I was out there in late September 2024, and I probably should have posted it there, but again, it didn't have like all the pieces, and I that was the wrong approach. I should have just published the breadcrumbs, the few breadcrumbs that I had. I went to some other places and I had some more information about this particular location. But one of the things that I noticed when I was out there in September of 2024 is that how was it purchased? Where did that house come from? And that location is much more consistent with the general approach of marijuana grow houses in Maine. It was on kind of a country street. The neighbors were much farther away than what we saw in Braintree, although not nearly as far away as some of those remote places in Maine. But it wasn't like literally it wasn't tightly, densely populated. It was a small country town, Hamden. Probably you've never been there. It's beautiful. But I should have published what I had. One of the little nuggets about what I had relative to this particular house was the mortgage company they used. And so when I got the charging documents from the most recent indictment up in Braintree, it included addresses for all of the defendants. So I ran the addresses because, as you know, I'm a real estate broker, and anyone can do this. Although, because I do this all the time for, I have clients and I research property, blah, blah, blah. By the way, if you want to buy or sell a house with me, that would be nice. So I'm a handy at that, but anybody can do it. So when I was doing that yesterday, I realized that 4 out of the 7 defendants that were indicted by the federal government earlier this week, 4 out of the 7 defendants got a mortgage from the same company that financed the purchase of this Hamden home at 41 Thresher Road in Hamden. And I was like, that is not a coincidence. The fact that 4 out of 7 people who got indicted by the federal government all used the same mortgage company, what are the odds of that? Now you could say that it's possible that 7 business partners all use the same mortgage guy. What are the odds of that? I guess that's possible. But how is it possible that another home out in Hamden, rated completely separately by local officials, and it doesn't seem to have any connection with the people in Braintree? How is this home also financed by the same mortgage company, which is called United Wholesale Mortgage? And when you start to do the research on these properties, and somebody actually posted up this morning, I can't remember who that was, but they said the more you find out about this, like the more like it becomes like a behemoth, the more there is to research. Like you lift up under the tent and you're like, oh my God, there's a lot to research. So we're starting to see little trends. In this particular case, a mortgage company. I've also noticed a real estate company that has represented a number of people that seem to be involved in this nexus. So there's little nuggets that we'll be releasing along the way, and hopefully they will reveal a bigger story. One of the things that was remarkable to me was this story out of Monson in Palmer. Back in 2020, the DEA raided 5 properties in Monson and Palmer. They confiscated 4,100 marijuana plants and arrested 2 people. Arrested 2 people in Monson and Palmer. And they were facing up to 20 years in jail. This is the picture of the house from Google. I believe this is from 2023, this picture of the house in Google. And this property, I don't know if you can see it. They had a sign over here. It's gone now. But this property, maybe actually if we go down the street, the sign will reappear. Oh, that in happier days, this picture looks older. In happier days, it was the Monson Flower Shop and Greenhouse. So the Monson Flower Shop and Greenhouse, this picture looks a little bit nicer. The Monson Flower Shop and Greenhouse was raided by the DEA in the summer of 2020. And after a year-long investigation, 4,100 plants, 4 other properties, people facing up to 20 years in prison. So there was a big deal about that made by the DEA and the U.S. Attorney Lelling at the time. The problem is that Attorney Lelling was not long for the position because Biden became president in January of 2021. 3 months after Biden became president, the case was dismissed. The indictment was withdrawn. Case over. Bye-bye. Case over. Bye-bye. The property sat for, as some of those Google photos kind of represent, sat for a while and was finally put on the market in early 2024. Here's the property description. Due to the condition of the building, inside and out, will only go for a cash sale. Seller will not do any work. This is strictly an as-is sale. The property is not insurable in the current condition. This will not go through conventional methods due to condition. And then further down, special showing instructions. Bring flashlight, wear mask. Because, yeah, I wonder why it said that. Someone has now purchased the property. They bought it for $200,000 or something like that. Someone has now purchased the property, put a lot of money into it. Good for them. And is now selling the property for 500 plus. You know, it's a big property. And I hope that they've cleaned it up, and there's no reason to believe that they haven't. But it must have been a very big job. Let's see. Bitcoin real estate guy has a comment. By the way, I gotta call you. I want to head over there to your neighborhood and see you someday. United Wholesale Mortgage is doing great with their marketing. Yeah, am I giving them a little help this morning? Maybe I'm helping them out too much, Bitcoin real estate guy. I don't know. Happy Friday, Bitcoin real estate guy. I hope that you have a great day. By the way, if you'd like to call into the show, and we'll be taking your calls soon as I kind of set this up. Let's see if I can set this up here. Hold on a quick second. We'd love to take your calls on today's show. There we go here. Just give me a quick second. We're going to set this up, and yeah. All right, great. So if you want to call into the show, the number is on the screen, 617-751-1460. If you want to call into the show, we'd be very, very glad to chat with you. You should get a little recording. It's going to ask you what you want to talk about, and then I'll pick up, and you'll be live on the just like a talk radio show. Isn't that cool? Yes, it is. Hold on, let me pat myself in the back after having figured out how to make this happen at an affordable price. It is pretty affordable. All right, so the phone lines are now open. 617-751-1460. 1460. If you want to call into the show, I'd be very happy to chat with you. You'll hear the show in the background on the phone while we speak with you. All right, so this story came as a complete surprise because I've been usually dependent upon the Anti-Woo Coalition account to bring these types of stories to my attention, but they've been busy launching their website and everything, so I get it. But apparently, another Boston City employee has been charged with a crime in a deadly shooting, allegedly lied to police. This is I can't believe this is happening. Yet another city employee is facing criminal charges. This to me, how many current city employees are facing criminal charges? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we're up to 4 now. Jacqueline Cresemi, 34, is the latest Boston worker to be arrested after she was allegedly involved in a deadly shooting. Didn't we learn that gun violence is a public health matter? Right? Haven't we been told that? Well, how convenient, because she works at the Boston Public Health Commission. She was reportedly behind the wheel when her passenger allegedly shot a man who owed him money. The passenger missed his target and ended up striking 2 bystanders near the Dudley Square T station on April 19th. This happened April 19th, and we're just hearing about it now. Yeah, unbelievable. Dorchester woman was ultimately arrested in June, and she was charged with an accessory after the fact, 2 counts of witness intimidation, 2 counts of withholding evidence from a court, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and by the way, not only, I should actually say it's 5 City Hall employees, but one of them, of course, is now a former City Hall employee. That would be TFA, right? She finally left on July 4th. She finally, a week ago, collecting her last paycheck, and the federal government is tracking her down for the additional $13,000 that they want in restitution, which I got to give all credit to Boston Globe PitchBot for putting this up. This was pretty funny. Report after latest official charged with corruption, Boston City Hall to get new federal prison wing. Good job, Boston Globe PitchBot. And I would say that the federal prison wing is more physically attractive from an architectural point of view than the original Boston City Hall, which is, of course, very, very possibly the ugliest building on the face of the earth, right? Boston City Hall is absolutely disgusting in its brutalism, just absolutely horrific. So, by the way, if you want to call into the show, you can. I would love to hear from you. 617-751-1460. Smaller crowd today. Are you getting sick of me? Is that what it is? Smaller crowds. I'm happy to have anybody. I can't believe anybody listens to me ramble on here, but thank you so much for coming. The other day, we had this story of the woman who was allegedly raped, and then because it hasn't been proven yet, but she was accusing a man of raping her, and then she said she was reluctant to report the crime because the man told her that if she did, he'd report her to ICE and she'd get deported. And she has a child here in the United States, and she was very worried. So that was very troublesome. When that story came out, I read it in the Herald, and I tweeted to the author of that story, and let's give him credit, Rick Sobey. I tweeted to Rick Sobey, and I asked, because I read the name of the defendant, the alleged rapist, and I said to myself, why isn't it's quite clear that the victim in the case is here in the country illegally. What about the alleged perpetrator? And I tweeted to Rick Sobey. I said, did you inquire about the immigration status of the perpetrator? Now, he did not respond, which is okay. You know, that's fine. But now the other shoe has dropped, and he has written a follow-up story because, of course, as we probably have already could have concluded, the alleged perpetrator is an illegal immigrant as well, right? The perpetrator is an illegal immigrant and the victim is an illegal immigrant. ICE Boston will try to deport migrant who allegedly raped woman and threatened to report her to ICE. ICE has lodged an immigration detainer. The only question is, will the immigration detainer be honored, right? I don't know whether it's going to be honored. ICE Boston says feds will try to deport illegal immigrant accused of raping a woman at knife point, then threatening to report her to ICE. Well, that kind of backfired on Alfredo Romero Argentina, also known as Alfredo Romero Cortez, 48, after allegedly raping a 35-year-old woman a week ago today on July 4th. The Salvadoran national was charged with aggravated rape, A and B, on a household member. Yeah, it's just obviously Mr. Romero is no Romeo. So a horrific story here. And then you scroll down to Suffolk District Attorney Kevin Hayden. The facts here are troubling on numerous levels. Certainly the physical harm of the victim suffering the assault and a reluctance to report for fear of separation from her child. This type of combined anguish no one should have to experience. And that's true. Like no one is endorsing the crime that allegedly occurred here. No one's endorsing that. But both of these people are in the country illegally. And so, yeah, I know what Maura Healey would say. Things happen. That's what Maura Healey would say. Things happen. But understand that this story would not be a story if it wasn't for the fact that they were in the country illegally, right? It just wouldn't happen without that. Another illegal immigrant story from the Boston Herald today. Illegal immigrant in Massachusetts who stole ID of dead child, worked as a firefighter, sentenced to 25 months in prison. Apparently the Herald has cut back. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I'm pretty sure the Herald has cut back on photos because now they're just going with file photos. Yeah, poor Herald. They do good work mostly, but they're a little lacking in the photo department. So, this story writes itself, right? He exploited the identity of a deceased child to avoid accountability for a litany of criminal violations and became a firefighter. Tron Nguyen, 50, has been living in Braintree. Braintree, man. Stole the identity of a 13-year-old dead child and ultimately used the stolen identity to work as a paramedic and a firefighter. He went through the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy and became a firefighter at the Melrose Fire Department in the name of the late child. I mean, this is just awful. Just awful. Imagine if that was your kid. Imagine if you're the mom and dad or the uncle or the aunt of that of that 13-year-old child that passed away. And then you find out that somebody stole their identity of this deceased 13-year-old to become a firefighter. One of what is obviously the most noble professions on the planet, right? Men and women who run into a burning building to save you. And then he's doing that in the name of a 13-year-old deceased child. It's almost hard to even pronounce these words. It's just vile and disgusting. It's vile. That's the only way you can describe it, is vile and disgusting. It is only that. Talk about vile and disgusting. I'm a little confused. Wendy Wakeman is saying posting while on vacation is high level. That's pretty funny, Wendy. Because yesterday, Governor Maura Healey put out this spin about this Massachusetts is now the most improved state for business, and we're getting better every day. referencing the CNBC story. Massachusetts is 25's most improved business state, boosted by financial independence from the District of Columbia. Wow. You stop and think about that. I guess when you're down and out, there's nowhere to go but up. So, the most improved state, I guess when you're starting almost at the bottom, there's nowhere to go but to get better. I think that's kind of this is some varsity level. This is some varsity level spin here, Wendy, right? This is some high level varsity level spin to say that all of a sudden that we're the most improved state, because I actually had a cross-reference to see if these two posts, the first one by the governor, here's the first one by the governor, and then this second one by NFIB, Chris Carluzzi, I had to double check that these were the same story, because in the same story by CNBC, Massachusetts is now listed as the second highest cost of doing business in the nation. This is the actual truth of the matter. Massachusetts lawmakers should begin lowering operating expenses for small businesses, including much needed unemployment tax reform. Yes, Chris Carlozzi at NFIB. Absolutely. Why does my phone keep on beeping like that? I have no idea why that is. But yes, 100%. This story and this story are referencing the same CNBC report, but with completely different spin. I'm gonna believe NFIB Massachusetts. I think I'm going with NFIB Massachusetts. By the way, the other state, and this is really hard to read in this graphic, sorry about that. The other state that's more expensive than Massachusetts to do business, Hawaii. And if I look here, it's Hawaii, Massachusetts, Washington, Rhode Island, Maryland, New York, Connecticut, and Oregon. Is it Oregon or Oregon? I know people get upset when you mispronounce it. Let's see. Next up, Kevin Hayden. I don't even know. He's basically saying in this story that we have not legalized shoplifting, but there's a little nugget in here in this article by the Herald, Gailey Crawley. Here's the little nugget that I thought was very interesting. Shoplifting, according to the police commissioner, who partnered with the DA's office on the Safe Shopping Initiative rolled out in March 2024, is up 15% this year compared to the same period last year. Mass Retailers Association estimates that shoplifting costs $2 billion a year in Massachusetts. So shoplifting is up, but our focus is on repeat and violent offenders that are impacting retail theft. So if the Safe Shopping Initiative is resulting in an increase in shoplifting, I've got to ask, what is the Safe Shopping Initiative and why are we continuing it? Because it doesn't seem to work. What is it? Kevin Hayden tells us his office is seeking to divert rather than prosecute certain low-level shoplifting offenders, but bristled when asked whether he still operates under his disgraced former predecessor, Rachel Rollins. So Rachel Rollins famously released this do not prosecute list. And when the Herald asked, is he basically re-establishing, unofficially, of course, the do not prosecute list, Kevin Hayden showed his incredibly thin skin in response. Where is it here? It's in here somewhere. Oh God, sorry, I missed it. Here it is. Suffolk DA spokesman also clarified Hayden's office prosecutes first-time shoplifting offenders who opt not to take part in a voluntary diversion program. So this is all about the lingo on this is to provide services to the offenders, not charges. Not to charge them, but to help them. They need help. And it's not working. It's not working. Shoplifting is up 15%, no, regardless of your initiatives. By the way, if you want to call into the show, 617-751-1460 is the number. Mass Fiscal, man, they're good. They are really good at what they do. All credit to Mass Fiscal and the team over there. As you know, more and more criminal defendants are being released because the private bar advocates, so these are private attorneys, decided they're not going to take any additional cases. And there's a protocol in place that they knew about in advance that said if you don't have a public defender within 7 days, you get released from jail. And if you don't have a public defender within 45, your charges are dropped. So they knew about this when they started the work stoppage. And now they've hit the 45-day mark. We're actually a little bit more beyond that since they stopped taking cases. So criminal defendants, who of course are innocent until proven guilty, are now being released. And Mass Fiscal just has a brilliant video on this. Take a look at this. As you might remember, in the state budget, the legislature, endorsed by the governor could have vetoed this provision, and the legislature included $5 million for legal defense for illegal immigrants. And I'm not even saying that the public defenders should get the raise, but they could have taken that $5 million and spent it on defense of criminal defendants here in Massachusetts, right? They could have spent it on that, but instead they decided to spend it on helping illegal immigrants stay in the country. And here's the brilliant Mass Fiscal video as Paul Craney adds their words, not ours.
I've been working on a responsible budget for the people in Massachusetts.
This budget will create an immigration legal assistance fund to help individuals receive legal representation, and we will allocate an initial $5 million to that program.
That's what we're focused on delivering. I've been working on a responsible budget for the people in Massachusetts.
This budget will create an immigration legal assistance fund to help individuals receive legal
lawyers for legal aliens to fight deportation. We have $5 million for that, but not enough to pay our local bar advocates. So as consequence, we're having criminal defendants released. We had the guy released the other day, charged with domestic violence of attempted strangulation of his pregnant wife. He's sprung. How do you think that woman feels today?
Representation, and we will allocate an initial $5 million.
An initial. Understand that this is the chairman of Ways and Means, by the way, that's on the screen here. He says an initial, which kind of gives away the fact that he actually wants more money for this program.
To that program.
That's what we're focused on delivering.
That's what we're focused on delivering. Thank you, Maura. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for delivering for us. All right. So yesterday, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit to talk about what I thought was an incredibly disturbing article that came out of Commonwealth Beacon. And when I read this article, I had to make sure that it was actually written by a staff reporter. I thought at first it was an opinion piece, although I would say that recently, since Bruce Moll's retirement, Commonwealth Beacon has started to go even farther left than they already were. But having said that, I read this article because they are definitely a leftist publication, and more so now than ever with the departure of Moll. In enforcing new climate law, a dispute over the obligation to serve natural gas customers, are utility companies allowed to cut customers off as part of the clean energy transition? Really interesting question. Horrifically confusing headline. Let me explain it. So up until very recently, if you had natural gas in your neighborhood, the pipe going under the sidewalk, and you wanted natural gas, the natural gas company had an obligation to accept your connection request. Recently, in 2024, that obligation to accept your connection request has now been weakened. And in fact, it's been weakened to such an extent that what is known as obligation to serve, which means that a gas company must provide service to you, is now being interpreted to the fact that they can actually disconnect you from your natural gas service, not on a one-by-one basis, but a block-by-block basis, in order to convert the entire block, or city or town for that matter, to electric service. You see, none of this green energy makes sense if you have a choice. It only makes sense if it's mandated. It only makes sense if it's mandated. And what they're basically saying, let's just say you have a mile long street with 10 houses, let's make it easy, and 5 of the houses decide to go with the green energy, which is a scam, right? And 5 of them stick to natural gas. They want to shut the gas off to those 5 houses so that they have to go with green energy, right? This is an incredibly totalitarian, which is, I think Jane Cornyn said, proposal. And you got to really kind of get into the details, because very few of the people in Beacon Hill actually want to go out and actually say what they mean and mean what they say, right? Here is State Senator Barrett. There is absolutely no distinction in the old law or the new law between existing companies, customers, and new ones. If the Senate and then ultimately the legislature had wanted to distinguish between old and new customers, we would have done so. And basically what he is saying is they have eroded the obligation to serve concept for all customers. Senator Barrett of Lexington, chair of the Joint Committee on Energy, says the 2024 law, which he had a hand in writing, scrapped entirely the company's obligation to serve natural gas when other alternatives are present. So in other words, if other alternatives are present, the state, effectively, the government, is going to force the natural gas companies to disconnect your service. And not on a one-by-one basis, but as is further disclosed here in this article. Let me just bring it up to you here. Here it is here. As the state strives to meet its climate goals, which are a mandate, which we could repeal if we wanted to, environmentalists say that transitioning to existing buildings off the gas system needs to happen not just house by house, but block by block. The transition, they say, needs to happen at a larger scale in order to prevent a situation where ratepayers are left paying for both a gas system and the clean energy transition. However, there is an obligation to serve existing customers concept that has now been completely eroded, according to State Senator Barrett. Therefore, what Barrett wants and what these clean energy nuts want is, in order to achieve the mandate, they want the natural gas companies to assist in the delivery of additional alternative sources, green sources. And once those sources are available, bye-bye natural gas. They hate natural gas. Why do they hate natural gas? Because it makes their product relatively expensive. No one is going to switch to green energy when you can go and buy affordable natural gas. Just no one's going to do it. It just doesn't make any sense. So this is incredibly scary and totalitarian. I think that was a good word from Jane over the last day or so. Proposal. I am strongly recommending, if any one of you are interested in this energy issue, if you're not reading this article from Commonwealth Beacon, you got to kind of plunge through it a little bit because they bury the lead a little bit. But a very, very important story. Strongly recommending it. They're basically saying that that the new law allows and actually forces natural gas companies to shut off the natural gas on a block by block. So remember the whole story about they're going to take your gas stove. They're not going to take your gas stove. They're just going to shut the gas off altogether. Yeah. And then they're going to leave you with a gas stove that doesn't work. And then, of course, there'll be all sorts of incentive programs from Mass Save, which are free. And yeah, you get it. And you'll get a brand new electric stove, which obviously sucks, right? I have an electric stove because we don't have natural gas in my neighborhood. And I would love to have natural gas because everyone knows natural gas is a better cooking stove, right? Everyone knows the immediate heat. Every restaurant uses natural gas for a really good reason. It's better to cook with. But you're a climate criminal if you're using it, for sure. All right, let's see if we have any other comments. We do not. And did we have any calls today? We did not. Maybe next time. All right. In the meantime, you have a wonderful Friday. We're going to try to see you back here on Monday at 8 a.m. That's the plan. You have a great weekend. Bye-bye.